Hello and welcome back to your professional diploma in digital marketing and SEO. In today's lesson, we close off on our topic of e-commerce. But let us quickly recap the previous lesson. What did we look at? We looked at ROPO, research online, purchase offline, how consumers research, e-commerce website creation, hosting and management, Google Merchant Center, and product feeds and creation. And what we're looking at today is enhancing the e-commerce experience. Then we'll look at some e-commerce campaign options, followed by dynamic ads and remarketing, which are absolute powerhouses. And then we will close off with some e-commerce analytics reports. So first up, as promised, we are looking at enhancing the e-commerce experience. The first thing to look at is an exit pop-up. Now, I'm not referring to those annoying things that you see when on a site. Those are called banners or interstitials. This is a message that appears on a user's screen as they are about to leave the site. I'm sure you guys have noticed it. When you're about to click on that X in your browser, suddenly a pop-up appears encouraging you to take a specific action. This is what I'm talking about here. And essentially what it is trying to do is to entice customers to stay on the site and reduce the bounce rate. That could at least be one objective. You might also want to get their contact details, so that they're signed up to your marketing comms. But this is the main reason. Some examples of how you would use this would be, for example, with cart abandonment. So they're about to leave without finishing a purchase. You could give them a reminder that reminds them they have things in their cart and they might want to check out. You could also feature a new product in this message so that they become aware of it. And then you could also encourage newsletter signups or marketing comms. No matter what you decide to do, the message needs to be enticing and it needs to offer value. Let me give you a few examples. This is from Opt-in Monster, and just as I was about to leave, this came up and said, ouch, that's abandonment. Over 70% of your visitors do just that and never return. So of course this is a marketing tool, but the fact that they're saying this is what happens to you and what is happening to them is a really good way actually to kind of gain more interest in and spend more time on the site. We did speak about these guys briefly in Module 1 when covering SEO for websites, the initial lesson. They also do handle SEO. Another example from Pick Reel says boost conversions by 25% or get your money back. So that is a message of value. If I was actually interested in this service as opposed to just researching, then I would probably click on learn more. It's also very nice that there's a good clear CTA, and then of course you can also say no thank you, and that is given less attention. There is also something called mouse tracking that is offered as a service. This is where a technology or software follows the mouse's movements of an internet user to simulate eye movement on a page. So if you think about how you use or navigate a site, do you keep your mouse still while viewing a page? Do you move the mouse around in circles while you're thinking? That's definitely something I do. Mouse tracking can help you see things like if people are hovering over images that can't be clicked, maybe they've missed a CTA button, they're paying attention to content or functionality that you didn't expect them to, and more. And of course, these insights allow you to optimize your site and those pages. There is also eye tracking available, but this is very expensive and people are made aware of the fact that the eye tracking is being used, which also means that their actions aren't going to be completely natural. We're aware that we're being watched, so our behavior changes. Then also something that we have touched on a few times, there are chatbots, and these have machine learning and NLP capabilities. NLP is natural language processing, so they basically want to sound more like people and less like robots. Some examples of how they are used would be to complete consumers' purchases. They can interact with the bot and complete their purchase. They could give consumers product recommendations. They can offer customer support. And in terms of the tech behind chatbots, there are rule-based chatbots and then AI chatbots. The rule-based ones are restrictive in that they can only respond to specific commands, where with AI, it tries to interpret the user's requests and can often reply with a range of options. So this is where the machine learning and NLP comes in. It's not available for all bots, just depends on your budget. Now, what's very common with chatbots is that it is integrated with platforms like Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, etc., and provides a huge amount of value to businesses and consumers. You can actually create a chatbot yourself within Facebook for use with Messenger. It does require some intermediate developer skills. So if you have those or you know someone who does, worth checking out, even if you don't end up using it. There are also self-service options available where you would log into the provider's interface and build your bot, kind of using drag and drop features. They are not intuitive and they do lack that machine learning NLP functionality. So they will be rule-based, they will be quite simple, but it might be a good start. Some examples of chatbot vendors is Chatterbot, Conversable, and Microsoft Bot Framework. There are many others. Chatbot or Chatterbot rather, and Microsoft, they offer end-to-end solutions. So they handle everything from creation, from start to finish. After you've briefed them, it's also hosted on an NLP platform. And you would have to log in to edit or change responses and triggers as needed. Conversable is a self-service option. Then another thing that has a big impact on e-commerce experience is delivery, which we touched on in the previous lesson. The time to delivery is a big factor. If you have a long delivery time, you should look at ways to reduce this. That is essentially what you need to be doing. The logistics of offering same day or next day delivery is pretty intensive, but with more brands adopting it, like Amazon Prime, Google Express, Walmart, if you're really wanting to achieve scale, then this is something to focus on. Then we have loyalty programs. I know for me, I have about 15 different loyalty cards in my wallet, and it's quite annoying. I wish we could have one for everything. But these are great ways to entice and keep customers. You could, for example, offer discounts or rewards for purchases or a certain number of purchases. You could also introduce a points system. So, for every purchase, they get the same number of points according to the value. You could also offer a free product after the 10th purchase, as an example. You could give loyalty members exclusive offers. And some examples of really successful loyalty programs would be Reebok and Starbucks. And there's quite a difference, though, between these two brands. Reebok took a very different approach. And instead of offering what I've just spoken about above, they actually offer training and wellness workshops to their loyalty members. Then with Starbucks, in order to earn loyalty points or stars, that's what they're called, customers must order or pay with the Starbucks app. So it has to be done within the app. This is also a great way to track information, track the data of app usage, and then optimize for that. So it's pretty clever. And speaking of apps, anyone who has a smartphone is making use of apps. Naturally, then, having an app for an e-commerce business makes a lot of sense. Apps are faster in functionality and lighter on the operating system than a website. Brands also then have the ability to send push notifications. So if you think about any of the apps that you have on your phone, in fact, I think I spoke about this in module 1. You know, my children have games on my phone, and so I keep on getting the notifications at the top of my phone about, you know, enticing people or them to come back and play. So it's exactly that. Those are push notifications, and they actually don't cost anything. They are zero cost. So it's really the app management, you know, that is where the cost comes in. Brands can also take advantage of location-based targeting. So essentially, you have a location or a store within a certain area, and you have a campaign that then targets app users within that location radius, let's say up to a 10-mile radius. And so anyone who is within that radius would receive a push notification or something to do with a special to entice them to go to that location. You can also run app engagement campaigns, and more engagement increases the likelihood of a purchase. And then you can offer value add features that are not possible on a website. For example, Sephora has augmented reality, which we're going to go into now, and that adds their makeup to your selfie so that you can see what it would look like. That would not be possible on a website. It's possible through the app. And Starbucks did a great job of linking their loyalty program and their app. As I mentioned just now, people only earn points or stars if they order and pay through the app. But ordering and paying through the app alone is a benefit to its consumers, so as there are no queues. So this is a great value add on top of the loyalty program. But let us move on to augmented reality. Augmented reality is where you can place products in a consumer's home or body. I mean, not physically, but as you can see in this image, it's a digital feature. It allows consumers to have a more realistic idea of the product, as well as offering a great experience. I'm going to show you an example just now. For example, we have IKEA and then Sephora, which I just spoke about. But I want to show you IKEA just to give you a better idea. Let us give this a play.
Hey, IKEA would like everyone to know about Place, our new augmented reality app. Built on Apple's new AR kit, you can easily place true to scale 3D models of IKEA furniture in your place. Scan, browse, select, move, and place. So that could mean less of this and less of this, and probably more of this. We want to make it easier for people everywhere to imagine a better place. Share this place and this place. Try place in your place.
But let's move on to some e-commerce marketing options. First off though, it is important, very important to note that none of this, of what I'm about to take you through, would be possible without automation and machine learning. We've touched on it in the course so far, and lesson 5 of module 4 is dedicated to the topic. But to briefly explain, as really from now on we're looking at getting more complex and advanced in terms of the application of digital marketing. So machine learning is how we are so accurately able to predict behavior and target people online. What makes machine learning possible is big data, and that is exactly what it sounds like. It's a huge, huge amount of data. Companies like Google have this in abundance, of course, as well as other software as a service, brands that are global, lots of different sources of this big data. Using technology, they're actually able to interpret this data in many different ways. Machine learning is not just used in marketing. We use it for medical diagnosis, prediction, classification, learning association, and more. Then we have automation, and this is technology doing the work for you, essentially. If we go through some examples, email automation with triggers and rules. That's not something that you manage manually all the time, is it? You first set it up, but then the automation takes over and makes sure that that always happens. Then there's also scheduled reports that could be sent, whether daily, weekly, monthly, etc. Ad rotation, that is based on performance or rules, that would also count as automation. Chatbots responding to consumers. When it comes to a rule-based situation, this would also be automation, but others would be machine learning, as we covered just now. And then A/B testing. So when you're doing a test, let's say a 50-50 split between people landing on one page versus another, that is an example of automation. Another important thing to remember is that you don't have to know or do everything. That would be impossible. If you were responsible and knew in an expert way everything that we have covered, then I would be bowing down to you right now. But it's really not necessary, and don't feel that you have to know everything. No matter what you're doing in this field, it is of course good to know and keep updated about all these different things, but you don't necessarily have to know how to implement everything. That is where reaching out and approaching different specialists, or whatever you have the budget or capacity for, is where it comes in. You can't do it on your own. You need a team of people to help you. So starting off with Google Ads, which we have covered quite extensively, we have shopping campaigns as well as search. And I will talk you through that just now. Looking at Google Shopping first, this is where you would use your product feed uploaded through the Merchant Center. It would display images, descriptions, and pricing at the top of the SERPs, the search engine results pages. The targeting is mostly automated. You essentially just choose the device, the networks, and the locations. And it is triggered by search terms, but keyword targeting isn't used. It's looking at the behaviors and interests of people in this case. There are also promotion options available, so you could offer discounts, free gifts, shipping free or discounted, and this would all appear in the shopping results. Other options that are available, not necessarily everywhere, but they are called local inventory ads. You show your ad to nearby shoppers with a Google hosted landing page called the local storefront. If you're just doing the standard product shopping ads, then it is a single image, but you can also have a carousel under the showcase shopping ads. And this would be a cost per engagement model, with an engagement being recorded if someone clicks to expand your ad. So that would count as an engagement. With shopping campaigns, you would have product groups as opposed to ad groups. A product can be in more than one category, and bids can be prioritized. For example, let's say, sticking with the clothing theme, you have a dresses category or product group, but then you also want to have a top selling product group, and one of those dresses falls within that group as well. So you can have them in both. And let's say you want to bid higher for the top selling product group than the dress group, then you would just adjust the bids. You would prioritize them within the campaign platform. This is an example of the shopping ads. If you look at the top, I looked for floor length blue dress. The images underneath that are not actually ads. These are things that have been just pulled through by Google. They're organic results. They're actually just rich snippets. That's what they're called. But if you look at the right, this is where the shopping ads have appeared in this instance. They do sometimes appear directly under the search term. It's just for this they didn't. Then we have Google Search, good old Google Search. This offers you more coverage on the search engine results page if you have both a shopping campaign as well as a search campaign. This allows you to have keyword targeting, so you could only choose specific keywords or keywords that offer you the highest return on investment. You also have different targeting options, which you can actually control versus the shopping campaign. I'm not saying that the shopping campaign is worse or not on the same level as search, but you can get different results, and search does give you more control. You can also use promotion and price extensions, just like with shopping, but it is important to note that extensions really only appear on the top 2 results. So if you're below the second position, then they won't appear. And what is great to do is obviously compare to your shopping campaign and then test products with a higher conversion rate. For example, you could have both of them on search and shopping, and then see which performs better and then switch off the one. This is another example. So at the top here, I've searched for brown leather 3-seater couch. You can see now that there are actually the shopping ads underneath. So the sponsored ads, you've got the image, the title, the price, and the brand. Then we have the search result underneath that. So this company, Kilo, I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced, they are using both shopping and search campaigns. Then you can also take advantage of YouTube video advertising, though I must note that it is top of the funnel, or better suited for top of the funnel objectives, so branding awareness. And it is technically social media, but I'm adding it under the Google section, as the campaign would be created with Google Ads. So the benefit with YouTube is that there's quite a low cost and a high reach for it. So as an awareness or top of the funnel channel, it is actually fantastic, especially for e-commerce, especially for retail. So just to say again that YouTube is a channel to choose if you're wanting to reach consumers at all stages of the buying cycle, which is what a new business should be wanting to achieve anyway. It's not just looking for those short-term gains, but long-term performance. So as we discovered in Module 2, there is a difference between content marketing and video advertising. Video ads are more salesy with full focus on the product, and video content is created to inform and help consumers, with the payoff being that they might buy your product. If you consider a beauty tutorial, the products used in that would be what the brand wants to sell or the person wants to sell, but it's packaged in a format that is of interest and not directly salesy for consumers. Then with social, we have, of course, Facebook shopping and Instagram shoppable. We did touch on the data feeds on this in the previous lesson. Facebook shopping, it requires a feed, as does Google. The Merchant Center feed can be exported and uploaded here, so that's not double work, thank goodness. And there are integrations available. It does also require the pixel to be added to the site, which should have been done previously anyway to track performance of other campaigns or efforts on Facebook. And dynamic remarketing is available with single image, carousel, and collection formats. We're going to be talking more about dynamic ads and remarketing later on in the lesson. You can also add a shop section to a Facebook business page for consumers to shop within Facebook, so they never have to leave the platform, which is quite convenient for a lot of people. Then there is Instagram shoppable, but the account must first be approved, so there are certain constraints or requirements before you can access this feature. You can then connect to an existing catalog, or do it manually, or connect with a partner, which is specifically Shopify or E-Ccommerce, which is what we touched on in the last lesson as well. What you would do is you would select your photos or videos and tap the products within those that you want to tag, and then the names of the products should appear as you type them. So within that tag field, you type the name of the product, and then there should be a drop down, well, if you have more than one product, with the options to choose. Because Facebook and Instagram are housed together under the same manager, there is the catalog manager, and on the right there at the top, the blue button, that is where you would create your catalog. And then once you've created it, you could set up your Instagram shopping or your dynamic ads. When implementing a campaign or a sales campaign, you would be under the auction setting, and then you would go under conversions and catalog sales. So that's for a sales objective. This is an example of Instagram shoppable. So on the left, you have a lipstick. If you select the lipstick or the image, then you would see the product. And then finally, you can either view on the website and then make a purchase, or sometimes there is the option to pay within the Instagram app. Another tactic that e-commerce businesses might want to use is influencers and affiliates, which we've been through in quite a lot of detail in this course. So someone can, of course, be both, as we've covered before. They can be an influencer and an affiliate. If not, the difference would be in payment and measurement. And please do refer back to Module 2, Lesson 4, and Module 3, Lesson 5 for more info on influencers and affiliates. Then we have email personalization, which is a very valuable channel, as consumers have, of course, already shown intent by agreeing to receive communication from you. Some examples of emails that you could send out would be abandoned cart emails, so reminding them that they have things in their cart, special offers, recommendations and in-stock alerts, and content based off the customer profile. Remember that all of these options will be available to you within the chosen email marketing platform. If using dynamic personalization, then you would need to implement additional tracking and feeds, just like with the other options. Then we have remarketing across channels. Now, this is one of the most valuable assets in your marketing strategies. Everyone who visits a website forms part of a remarketing list, as we have covered previously. With the relevant tracking code implemented from the required channels, these lists can actually then be shared across all channels. For example, if someone searches on Google and then clicks your ad, when next on Facebook, she would see perhaps similar products to what she viewed. All of this is possible if you have your pixels and tracking in place. Then taking it up a level with dynamic remarketing, these are ads that are customized for each viewer based on the products viewed on a website. If used in Google Ads, it would be a display campaign or a shopping campaign. A product feed is needed, as well as a dynamic remarketing tag with custom parameters on each page, and these do differ per channel. Using Amazon as an example, let's say you go to the site and you view a laptop that is available. You then check in on Facebook and you see relevant products to what you have seen on Amazon. So things like headphones, hard drives, chargers, etc. Anything to do with what you had looked at. That would be an example of dynamic remarketing. I want to take you through an e-commerce paid strategy example. If you look at the right, the word prospecting is referring to trying to entice new users, so not returning users. So first up, we're going to advertise on Facebook with a carousel shopping campaign using our top products. Then with the carousel and collection options on Facebook shopping, we would then target the social engagers, so the people who have engaged with any of our content or ads across Facebook. Then we're going to use a single image and video on Instagram shoppable with our popular products. And the reason why we're choosing the popular products is because there is therefore a higher chance of conversion. Then we're going to advertise on Google Shopping with our popular products. We'll also go on Google Search with the top earning products. Now there is a difference, of course, between popular and top earning. Our popular products might not be the most top earning products, but it's good to have a mix of both just to see also what performs better and gives you the highest return on investment. If we have an app, we're going to run a universal app install campaign through Google Ads to encourage app downloads. Then we will run a campaign through our affiliate network using seasonal or trending products. And finally, we would run TrueView YouTube ads with a brand overview to try and encourage that branding and awareness. Now, these things are, of course, not possible for anyone with a small budget. This is just assuming that budget isn't really a constraint. But of course, if we had to break this down, then we would choose what we believe is or would be the top earning or the most successful platforms. Then with remarketing, what we would do is serve dynamic ads on Facebook to product viewers and email openers, as this audience would show the highest intent or some of the highest intent. Then we would run a carousel image on Facebook, serving a promotion to people who had abandoned their cart and not made a purchase within 7 days. There, the objective would be to remind them of the business and encourage them to actually make that purchase. We would also run dynamic ads across Google Display to converters in an effort to upsell different products. Then again, we would run dynamic ads on Google Display, but this time to all visitors excluding converters, and then we would add an additional in-market and affinity category. So essentially here, we would be targeting only all visitors that fit within an in-market or affinity category. Then we would run an exit pop-up on the site, excluding the cart page with the message to subscribe to email. So there would be a call to action there. And then another exit pop-up, but on the cart abandonment page with a reminder to purchase and also a subscribe option. Then we would send out an email with top products, but we would segment it by gender because men and women are interested in different things. We would send dynamic email content to anyone who had viewed a product. We could send a viewed and similar products email, so people who had viewed a product and then products that are similar to that, to people that have not purchased within 7 days. We could run a Google RLSA campaign with broad keywords and perhaps competitor terms, so we would only be targeting all visitors, which is why we could afford to bid on broad keywords. And of course, if a previous site visitor is Googling a competitor brand, then we would like to show up for that result as well. Again, if running or owning an app, we would send push notifications to all people who had downloaded the app. And then again, push notifications to non-engagers with a special, again, to try and entice them back to making a purchase. As we talked about earlier, we could also run a campaign based on location. So that would work if someone had a physical store. Right, so now we're going to look at a few analytics e-commerce reports before we close off. First up, this is the e-commerce overview in Google Analytics. This is from the Google Merchandise store. So if you have the link to this demo account, please go and have a look at this report specifically. But at the top here, we can see the dimensions are revenue versus e-commerce conversion rate. So that's what the graph is showing us. We then have an average overview of revenue and conversion rate. And I must just say that that conversion rate is incredibly low for an e-commerce site. If you're sitting with conversion rates like that, in general, there is a problem. And to be honest, that is what leads me to believe that not all the information about this business is being shared in the analytics platform, which I guess makes sense. It is Google's one of their sources of revenue. And so next to that, you can see the number of transactions and the average order value. So as you can see, this is nothing that you actually have to calculate yourself. This is all there available for you. And then you can do what you will with it. This is what will help you analyze and improve your performance. Then under that, we have the different marketing channels or strategies that they're using. Specifically, they have campaigns, internal promotion, an order coupon code, and affiliation. And this is a shopping behavior analysis, which is available under the e-commerce section. And this is really, really interesting. If we look at the bottom here, firstly, we can see the new visitors and returning visitor stats. We have no shopping activity, no cart addition, cart abandonment, and checkout abandonment. And if there are big differences in this, then this is what we could investigate further on our site. Then going back to the top, we have all sessions, and then underneath that it says no shopping activity. You can see all sessions is over 63,000, but 48,500 of those sessions involved no shopping activity. And then moving on to the second step, there are sessions with product views, and then at the bottom, no cart addition. So they viewed a product, but they didn't put anything in their cart. And that's quite a huge percentage. You can see 82% of people did not add anything to their cart. And then you can go further down. So we've got over 2,000 sessions with add to cart as an action, but 80% of those people abandoned the cart. So this again would be something to hone in on and see why perhaps they did that abandonment. So of course in e-commerce, cart abandonment is something to pay a lot of attention to, and there are actually ways, or is a way, to track where in the process of making a purchase people are dropping off. Now this is only really suitable for businesses with several steps in the checkout process with different URLs. And then you can see at which stage of the purchase process users are actually dropping off. For example, the purchase journey might look something like add to cart, checkout, billing address, payment details, and then confirming payment. Now, how you would track this is something called a funnel goal. This is a standard goal setup until you get to the details section, at which point you would click on the button for funnel. So instead of it being off, it would be on. Just look at the highlighted section on the right. So what you would do here is you would first name the section or the page. So let's say add to cart. You would then give the URL of that page and then add another step. So you'd continue adding steps. Now, essentially what this would do is once you've saved this goal, you can then monitor who either isn't following that journey specifically and where people are dropping off. Then you can look at that page and make sure that it's optimized. See if there are any errors, see if you can improve it, run some tests. You know, it depends on how involved and detailed you want to get with it. Then, of course, we have lifetime value, which we've spoken about before. Now, this is automatically available within analytics, but it will only show revenue data with e-commerce tracking enabled. And at least for now, the lifetime value is calculated over a maximum of 90 days. So this might not be suitable for all businesses if they know that there's quite a long date range between purchases. But it is something valuable, especially for retail, for fast-moving consumer goods. It's perfect for that kind of analysis. The lifetime value report talks about acquisition, but in this case, acquisition is referring to the first visit, not the first purchase. So it is just essentially counting all your visitors, not all your converters only. This is what the report looks like within Google Analytics. It's under the audience section and then lifetime value. It is still in testing. If we look here, there are several lifetime value metrics. Of course, the important one, or the most valuable one, perhaps being revenue per user. But then what you can also see is the lifetime value per channel, which is incredibly useful, especially when you look at optimizing, you're determining your budgets. Perhaps you need to spend less, and so you cut out a channel that isn't working as well. In this report, we can see that referral actually offers the highest revenue per user by far, whereas the lowest would be affiliates in this case. So I might look at reducing the spend or the effort with affiliates and focus more on referrals, perhaps work on increasing paid search, but this is something very valuable to look at. We can also see the page views per user, and I have chosen acquisition source, so that's what it is segmented by. And if we look at number 17, t.co, we can see that this has the lowest page views per user. So again, maybe this is a referral site, maybe we have a link on here. I mean, if it's not costing you anything, there's no need to take it away. But if you are putting spend into this site, for example, then you might want to look at reducing it. As we've discussed before, page views per user is an indication of interest, of intent. So we want to see that number quite high. You can also look at the revenue per user versus the session duration per user. And we can see actually quite clearly on this graph that a higher session duration equals a higher lifetime value. The two lines essentially follow each other, making it quite clear. So let's recap what you can actually, or what else you can achieve with lifetime value. You could evaluate performance of your campaigns by selecting the relevant date range, if of course it happened within this 90-day constraint. You can see whether the consumers that you've attracted throughout or through these campaigns actually perform. Do they perform better than average or worse than average? And then, of course, you would analyze further from there. You would try and look at why. You would then see which channels are performing best and use this to help determine your marketing spend. But just remember that this is all users, not all converting users. So the lifetime value of converters would actually be much higher than all your acquisitions, so people who have visited your site. But if you don't have that specific conversion in place, or goal in place across your advertising channels, then you can't see the lifetime value of your converting users. What you would do then is you would take your revenue divided by the number of transactions or the number of users, and that would be the lifetime value of each person. Right, we are done with e-commerce for now. The next lesson is all about SEO. We're going to be looking at algorithms and ranking factors. We have covered some, but we'll be covering them in more detail, followed by backlinks, so internal and external, and how to get those links. And finally, we will look at making PPC work with SEO. Well done for completing lesson 7. Thank you guys so much. I will see you very, very soon. Bye.